Hey guys, in this video, I want to talk a little bit about the trim packages, really doors, trims, and cabinets in custom homes. So at Legacy, we use a true custom cabinet company. And interestingly, I only discovered this in the past couple years, is that apparently Texas and Dallas-Fort Worth in general is kind of an island unto itself with custom built cabinets. A lot of areas of the nation use manufactured cabinets that these big companies make. They come out already finished and they are put together and installed on site by installers. We don't do that here, never have. It's becoming more popular. I'm getting more people from California that want those style of cabinets. And to some degree, those style of cabinets can offer some looks, especially on the modern side, that maybe you can't get out of a custom shop. I'm seeing, 50-50. It's nice that they come out that they're pre-finished and they have some of these cool looks they can do and everything. From a builder standpoint though, we've had issues where they didn't manufacture something right, and now we're having to deal with some company that's in some other state and trying to get product to us and all that kind of thing. Whereas, my cabinet shop here, hey, if they made this door wrong, we call them, they send guys out either with a new door or they're coming out with saws and they're fixing stuff on site. Probably a little user-friendly for us to do this. Now, these are not finished, so when they come out, they are plain wood, and then they have to be painted or stained by our paint contractor on site. So, a couple different ways of doing things. But in this video, I just want to talk about a few elements this house has. This house is a little more, I guess I would call it traditional, and the cabinets themselves behind me here are what we just call, you've probably seen this style of door for years and years. It's called a raised panel door, a pretty typical door design. Let me see, I don't have hardware on any of this yet, so. It's sticking because it was just painted. There we go. Okay, so just a typical painted or paint grade. When you hear the term paint grade, it just means they've used a wood that is meant to be painted. For paint grade wood, you wouldn't want wood that has all that heavy grain in it because it would show through the paint. So this is usually a wood called poplar that's very smooth and is great to be painted. Can be painted very smooth. They spray this so they end up looking really smooth. And not only are these types of doors, the raised panel doors, a pretty standard type of door, but they also have on this cabinet design what we call standard overlay. Now, these things can look a little wonky right now because they haven't been adjusted. There's a crew that comes back, adjusts everything, make sure everything works right, and they haven't done that yet. They don't do that initially because painters are taking doors off, hardware's being put on, a lot of stuff's being done to these cabinets, so we have them come back at the end to do all the adjustments. But one thing about these is we have what we call a standard overlay. What does that mean? Well, this is the face frame of your cabinet right there. A standard overlay just means that you see a certain amount of the face frame, both on the sides of the door here and underneath and above. Also between the doors. So I'm gonna do the little turn the camera around thing. And so when we look at these, we can see that there's visible cabinet frame below, on the sides, and between the doors themselves, as well as above between the top door and the crown. So that would be called a standard overlay. Now there are all different other types of cabinet construction that can be done. We're doing a lot of what we call full overlay. That is still where, and the term overlay means the door is sitting on the front of the face frame. Boom, it closes against the face frame there. A full overlay does the exact same thing, but the doors literally cover the entire frame. And they're very close together where they meet. So they look a lot like inset cabinets. What's an inset cabinet? Well, an inset would be where this door is actually back flush with the frame. So when you have inset cabinets, the doors and the drawers are flush with the face frame of the cabinet. Those are the most expensive type of construction to do. That full overlay would be just under that. And then this is the lesser cost, just a regular overlay cabinet. So, little cabinet 101 on cabinet construction and design. But I just want to talk a little bit about the trim also in a house like this. So above me, you will see ceiling beams. These are all made by our trim carpenters. So trim carpenters are different than the framing contractors. Framing contractors are the guys working with the big wood, with the big nails and the big nail guns. Trim carpenters come in and they do all this inside work. They use, they do the baseboards, they do the ceiling beams, they use smaller guns with smaller nails. And these are actually built by the trim carpenter. There's numerous ways to do beams. You can use actual pieces of wood, can pay a lumber company to send out, cedar or oak or whatever type of beam that you want hung in the ceiling. Oftentimes, if it's an actual beam that's a big heavy beam, it will be put in during the framing stage. We have a company that does what we call hand-hewn beams that are custom beams that are kind of built. They look just like old reclaimed beams, but they're light and can be put up after paint. The trim carpenter built beams are done during the trim phase. The trim carpenters come in when cabinets have been installed. They install all of our trim like baseboards, door trim, these kind of ceiling beams, and they actually build these on site. So these are just really pieces of wood. Let me turn the camera around here. That they build, and then of course the painters stain them to create these ceiling beams. You can't really tell them apart from a real beam that's, a smooth beam. But they are a little bit easier to deal with and not as expensive. This house also has what I would call a craftsman style trim package on the baseboards and the door casing. So when you hear the term door casing, all door casing is door trim. It's the trim around the doors. The Fort Worth build we're doing doesn't have any of that. We've actually done what we call sheetrock returns, which is kind of a contemporary look. Again, this house being a little more traditional, what we've got in it is just what we call a 1x baseboard. It's a 1x8-inch baseboard, so it's pretty tall. As you can see right here, it's just a flat piece of 1x8 that is used for the baseboards. The door trim or door casing has 1x4 on the sides with a 1x6 and a couple 1x2s up top that kind of set off that top header. And that's really the door trim throughout this house. They didn't do a bunch of crown mold in this house, didn't do chair rail. The window sills and stools are also 1x material. So I'll come over here. Everything's kind of painted white, so I don't know how well this is going to show up on the camera. But we're just using a 1x window sill and then a 1x4 window stool underneath. They do a rounded edge on the windowsill so it's not super sharp. And that's how all the windowsills in this house are done. So a pretty simplified trim design. We didn't do any casing around any of the windows, which is where you'd use wood around all the windows. We just really did the doors in this house. Here's an exterior door where you can see that style of door casing. And then, because this house did not have a lot of crown and things like that, primarily the only other trim we actually had the trim carpenters put into the house were a couple areas where we did things like built-in mirrors in the primary bathroom. It's gonna be a little hard to see in here, but you can probably see slightly different color. We had the trim carpenters build mirror trim that looks like the doors, more or less, and the mirror company will put a permanent mirror in here. That's basically the trim package for this house. So again, not overly complex. Our trim carpenters build our closets for us unless somebody wants a closet system. I know it's a little dark in here, but I'll just kind of show you the primary closet. Don't have rods in yet, but they've come in and built all these, and then we use some facing, some 1x to make the shelves themselves look thick. We'll commonly do that in our closets, just makes them look nicer. One thing I personally like about modern homes, and it's kind of been this way now for probably a decade, is that everybody went from trim packages being very ornate to really stripping them back. This kind of more basic craftsman look with 1x6 or 1x8 baseboards, that style of door casing. Even these cabinets in here, I showed it a second ago, but I'm walking back into this kitchen. Let me see if I can turn around and get a view where you can see everything. It's really just a piece of 1x crown mold there on top of the cabinets. Instead of having the big crown mold that sticks real far out. That's how everything used to be. Again, I'm 3 decades now in this, and I can remember in the mid-2000s when the homes were so decked out with trim that was very ornate, colors were very dark. We did a lot of faux painting and all kinds of things in the home. It was cool at the time, and it's interesting how taste changed because everything went from that to being light, bright. There can be some color pop in houses now, but the trim has pulled back and things just aren't as ornate anymore as they used to be. So this is, just kind of wanted to show the trim package of this house and give you some idea if you're out there looking at things to do. Another thing, I think we actually do have a different color on this trim, but another thing that started to be done a lot is people started painting the trim the exact same color as the walls. The first person I ever had do that, I thought, well, that's interesting. I've never heard of anybody doing that, and now they do it a lot. Used to be the trim was painted a different color that really popped. Either your walls were darker and your trim was white, or we had a phase there where we were painting the trim a color that was darker than the walls, but it was all designed for that trim to really shine, really pop out. And now things are a lot more subtle than they used to be. So I hope if you're building a home or interested in building a home, this helps you a little bit with, talking about the options of trim package. As I'm walking towards the front door before I finish, let me show you something here. We did do what we call casing. This has an iron front door. It's going to be a little hard to see because it's all white, but all around the front door, you can see we've kind of done a little panel style of wood casing all the way around the door. It has this eyebrow arch on it. So the whole wall essentially has been cased to kind of finish all that off. Nice big double iron door. All right, so hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.